It has been almost 6 weeks of hell for the people of Gaza. 6 weeks, far too many for the Palestinians, for the women, for the children. 6 weeks, far too long for the Israeli hostage and their family, and far too long for the entire region. It has also been 6 weeks of total disregard for international humanitarian law. I have to say the scale of destruction and loss is just staggering, and this is taking place under our watch. We have just witnessed over the last few weeks the largest displacement of Palestinians since 1948. It's an exodus under our watch, a river of people being forced to flee their home. Some of them were forced to relieve the unlivable trauma from the past, mostly unhealed. And others, the younger generation, were forced to live through traumas of ancestors and parents. This week, our team reported people arriving after hours and hours of walking, basically coming from the north of Gaza, Gaza City, to the south. They were dehydrated, hungry, exhausted, and shell-shocked. Many were just asking, what next? Where do I go now? Unlike in other global conflicts in recent years, the people of Gaza are trapped in a 365 square kilometer enclave with no way out, with no border to be crossed, and this enclave has just shrunk by half. Many continue to flock to UNRWA shelter, where we are hosting more than 800,000 people. I went recently to one of these shelters. What I saw there will never leave me. I was shocked by the tragic and sudden transformation of a place I knew very well. I knew for more than 30 years. Until recently, and I know sometimes it's hard to believe, but many people in Gaza, many of them were living like you and I, with the same kind of dreams, same kind of aspiration for their children. But all of a sudden, in one night, their dignity has been stripped. When I was in the school, the children were pleading for a sip of water or for a loaf of bread. And they were doing this in the same school where many of them used to get teaching and education. There is nowhere safe in Gaza. Whether in the north, in the south, in the middle, there is none. People have been asked to go from the north to the south, but in reality, one third of the people killed have been killed in the south. So the south is not safe. Even the UN compounds, in a war situation, there is no such safe zone or humanitarian zone where people could feel safe. Secondly, we have at least 103 UNRWA colleagues who have been killed. This is the number we are able to confirm. The reality is we might have more people who have been killed, and I'm worried that some of them are still under the rubble. These were UNRWA colleagues. They had absolutely nothing to do with the conflict per se. Another point I want to raise is the fact that UN facilities have been violated over the last 6 weeks quite regularly. I mentioned before the premises sheltering displaced people, but I would like also to tell you that over the last few days I received report that several of our UNRWA schools have been used for military purposes, including a recent discovery of weapons in schools and including the positioning of Israeli forces tanks in at least 2 UN schools. I reiterate here that UN facilities must never be used for military purposes or political gains and control. This is precisely the meaning of the UN flag.